Coming up on KCCI 8 News Close-Up, Iowa pushed out of a key DNC committee. What it could mean for our state in the next presidential election. Plus, the race to become Iowa's next governor is growing. We take a look at some of the candidates who threw their hats into the ring last week and their message to Iowa's voters. And the announcement Senator Joni Ernst's campaign made last week, just days after her controversial comments about cuts to Medicaid, and how that's motivating a challenger who wants her seat in Washington.
This is Iowa's news leader. This is KCCI 8 News Close Up.
Good morning, and thanks for joining us for KCCI 8 News Close Up. I'm Chief Political Reporter Amanda Rooker. Well, we start this morning with a shakeup on a key Democratic National Committee panel. Iowa's only representative on the powerful Rules and Bylaws Committee has lost his seat. Now, that is the same committee that voted to boot Iowa from its first-in-the-nation spot ahead of the 2024 presidential election. The Rules and Bylaws Committee decides which states go first in picking the Democratic nominee for president. And now, for the first time in years, Iowa has no seat at that table.
My precinct.
For more than a decade, Scott Brennan has been Iowa Democrats' only voice on a key Democratic National Committee panel. It decides which states vote first in the Democrats' presidential primaries.
His long-term commitment to the grassroots.
In 2022, Brennan was one of only 2 no votes when that committee voted to strip Iowa of its first-in-the-nation status.
I cannot support the proposal before us.
And days after the 2024 election, Brennan told KCCI Iowa Democrats should fight for first in 2028.
There's going to be a brand new calendar, brand new fight. And as far as I'm concerned, we should be in there fighting.
But now, Brennan's out.
I'm surprised, shocked, disappointed.
Democratic strategist Jeff Link says it's a bad sign for Iowa's chances of reclaiming first in the nation.
This is an indication that the people at the DNC don't really want to put us back.
In a statement to KCCI, a DNC spokesperson said they're committed to running a fair process for the 2028 primary calendar and that all states will have an opportunity to participate.
It's a false promise to say it's going to be a fair process. They must have felt threatened by Scott being on that committee, or otherwise they wouldn't have replaced him.
But Link says a strong showing in 2026 could change the DNC's mind.
If Rob Sand could win an open seat for governor, I think that reopens the conversation about can a state like Iowa lead the nation in that primary process.
Iowa Democratic Party Chair Rita Hart says she expects to have, quote, tough and direct conversations with the DNC about the Iowa caucuses and, quote, the serious concerns surrounding the Biden 2024 calendar. She added in a statement to KCCI that, quote, national Democrats let Trump get a head start in the 2024 campaign by excluding Iowa. We simply can't afford to be ignored again. I asked a spokesperson for the DNC why Scott Brennan was removed from the Rules and Bylaws Committee, but did not hear back. Now, other states that have traditionally kicked off the presidential nominating process, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada, each gained an additional seat on the Rules and Bylaws Committee. You can see those states right there. When the DNC knocked Iowa out of its first-in-the-nation spot, it released a new nominating calendar that put South Carolina first. But in 2024, New Hampshire defied the DNC and held its primary first. They argued a 1975 state law required New Hampshire to hold its nominating contest before any other state. Now, New Hampshire and South Carolina both have 2 seats on the Rules and Bylaws Committee. Well, we turn now to 2026, and there is a growing field on both sides of the aisle in the race for Iowa governor. Last week, 2 Iowans launched campaigns. That includes Democratic campaign operative Julie Stauch and Republican state representative Eddie Andrews. I sat down with Andrews to talk to him about his message to Iowa voters. He says he wants to lower property taxes, improve education, and strengthen mental health care.
From the steps of the State House,
I, Eddie Andrews, am announcing my candidacy for governor of the great state of Iowa.
Surrounded by supporters, Eddie Andrews launched his campaign.
You will never, ever, ever find a person who loves Iowa more than I do.
The Republican state representative has won 3 times in a swing district and says that bipartisan appeal gives him a path to the governor's office.
Most Iowans want the same thing, right? We want good, safe neighborhoods, good schools. While I am a conservative, Let's everyone get at the table. Everyone who's interested, let's get at the table and arrive at solutions.
In what ways are you similar to Kim Reynolds, and in what ways are you different? She has kind of reshaped the party in some ways. She's changed maybe the direction of our state in other ways. What things would you do that would be similar to her, and what ways would you deviate?
Well, first of all, Governor Kim Reynolds is a phenomenal leader. I would say I'm a little more forward on landowner rights, 100%. I've chosen sides. I'm not neutral on that. And quite honestly, I think you can do both. I think you can be both pro-Iowa, pro-corn, pro-business, which all three of those I am, but still take a 100% line in the sand on I am going to protect landowner rights, period, full stop. One of the things that we publicly disagreed on was area educational association reorg. I thought that was, I certainly wouldn't have done it that way, I will say that. And I don't have a problem with, I'm not a box checker. Not everything that a Republican does, I'm just gonna check because it's a Republican and vice versa. I think ideas can be taken on their own merit.
Andrews says he's working to introduce himself across the state, starting with his speech outside the State House.
My name is Eddie Andrews. I grew up about 15 blocks from here, married to a wonderful woman. As Oliver mentioned, like 35–40% of people in Iowa, married couples, we don't share the same party, interestingly enough, but we work together when we can, and sometimes we can't.
Eddie Andrews is married to NAACP Iowa-Nebraska President Betty Andrews.
What does she think of your campaign?
I think you should ask her. I mean, I think we've talked about it like a family. I think a lot of people look to us as an example of how love can conquer differences sometimes.
We asked Betty Andrews for her reaction to her husband's campaign, but did not hear back. Eddie Andrews' entry into the race sets up a contested Republican primary. Eastern Iowa pastor Brad Sherman is already in. Congressman Randy Feenstra, State Senator Mike Busolo, and Attorney General Brenna Bird are also considering runs.
When you look at a primary challenge, there's a plus and a minus.
KCCI political analyst Dennis Goldford says a crowded primary can strengthen a candidate's message, but it also comes with risk.
The plus is that you sharpen your campaign skills. The danger is that if it gets nasty, you may irritate, annoy, turn off prospective supporters whose vote you will need in the general election.
Andrews calls his campaign a long shot.
This is going to be a mandate on money.
He's launching without deep-pocketed donors, hoping to instead spark a grassroots movement.
I want to challenge everyone here to see if we can really and truly have a ground up campaign.
Republican and former state representative Brad Sherman, Democrat state auditor Rob Sand, and Sandra Wilson are all also running for governor. Now, Wilson was the first to announce her campaign, why she says she's going for the top state government job, even though she's never held public office. And another political outsider may not have experience in office, but she says she has experience working for dozens of campaigns, why Julie Stouch says she's ready to take on the challenge of governor. Welcome back. Longtime Democratic campaign operative Julie Stauch is now running for governor. She was the Iowa political director for Pete Buttigieg in 2020. She also managed Democrat Mike Franken's Senate campaign in 2022. Now she wants to step into the spotlight.
I'm not doing those other roles now. I'm being the candidate.
Julie Stauch has worked on 24 campaigns, local, statewide, even presidential.
The book Tipping Point talks about people needing 10,000 hours in order to really be at the top of your craft. And I have more than 10,000 hours in campaigns, probably 20,000 hours.
But this time, she's the one making the pitch.
Why aim for governor right out of the gate?
This is a year where a lot of changes have to be made in a lot of different ways. The electoral outcomes, people are looking for change. They don't trust anyone. My goal is actually to solve problems for Iowans. And so I'm hopeful that, in my conversations with people around the state, that I'll get a great chance to, build those connections and understand what people want fixed.
What's your message on what you would deliver for Iowans?
I don't know the answer to that question yet because I haven't talked with Iowans beyond the people in Wayne County. That's why I'm going out to have the conversation.
Stauch says she'll host small group discussions across the state to introduce herself and build a platform.
And basically what I'm saying is, hi, I'm Julie Stauch. I've applied for the job of governor, and I'm here for my first job interview. And then the process is more of a really focused communication process as opposed to me speaking for 25 minutes and then taking a few questions and then leaving. Essentially, I give them a worksheet with a set of questions. Then I say, okay, now it's your turn. You get to ask me questions. And then is when I tell them what my personal issues are that I think need to be taken care of at the state level.
Stauch enters a Democratic primary that already includes state auditor Rob Sand and Ames resident Sandra Wilson.
Rob Sand does have significantly more name recognition, potentially being holding a statewide elected office. And he's also fundraised, millions of dollars already. How do you overcome those obstacles?
We're actually going to be running two different kinds of campaigns. So of course I'll be raising money because money is an asset, but money isn't the only thing that you have to have on a campaign. And so what I'm looking at is a different sort of process for how to connect with people. But mine is not going to look like a traditional campaign. And I don't have to overcome the amount of money he has. I have to use my money smarter and in a different way. And I think I've got a good plan for that.
KCCI political analyst Dennis Goldford says Stauch needs to expand her reach beyond political insiders.
You have someone who may be known within Democratic circles, although I'd be surprised if widely known. She certainly would have to expand that familiarity base.
And earn their vote.
Part of what you said at the beginning, right, is that your mission is to build trust and that Iowans are seeking trust. Why are you the person, though, that Iowans should trust? What about you makes you the person they should trust leading the state?
So here's the thing with building trust. Building trust is something each and every one of us do every day in terms of how we respond to people we know and how we treat them and how we act. And that is something that, frankly, every candidate is going to have to work on if they want to succeed in this election cycle. Because that's the biggest problem, bar any others. And we have plenty of problems, but that's the biggest one. And so the way I look at it is building trust is the same as what I do with friends and family and new people I meet and colleagues. And it's about showing up, being reliable, being transparent, and then rinse and repeat.
And another candidate in this race, Democrat Sandra Wilson, says she decided she was going to run for governor back in March of 2023. She says she wants to be a leader who protects rights instead of violating them.
If you want a better future, if you want gardens in every town and city, if you want, there's a comprehensive housing plan that's being put up.
Those reasons and more, like expanding medical coverage and holding government leaders accountable. All reasons Sandra Wilson says Iowans should vote for her.
And I think that taking back our government in a way of like hey, we the people did start our government. We can co-create a better platform. Let's take away the hopelessness and thinking that we can't do anything about it. I want to empower people so that we can co-create a better future for future generations. And I think changing the political conversation to something of how do we all help each other and think about future generations is a conversation that's desperately needed right now that I'm not seeing from anywhere else.
The Democratic candidate for governor from Nevada has never held public office, but she says she knew her first run had to be for the top of the ticket.
I could run for mayor or county board of supervisor or all these other roles or legislator. But at the end of the day, the math is that it's the person at the very top, the head of the executive branch, that everybody's underneath that thumb. And I was like, that's what needs replaced.
You haven't held public office before. Why should Iowans trust you as their next governor? What qualifies you to run for governor?
I think some government officials have a little too much experience as public officials. I have an extensive knowledge on ethnoecology, gardening, wild plant uses, and help reconnect Iowans with nature. I feel like we've gotten so separated that that's one thing, is that bringing new ideas to help everyone instead of this divide and conquer politics. And having a robust, comprehensive platform is not something I think we've really seen in a while in politics. We've seen small platforms and big personalities.
Wilson is a transgender woman who says she would like to start more compassionate conversations surrounding LGBTQ+ rights.
I do think that there's a fairness issue in sports, and I think this entire topic can be discussed in a way that doesn't incite harassment against transgender women.
And she says she's building out a robust campaign platform.
We would institute Civilian Restoration Corps, modeled after Civilian Conservation Corps, and create thousands of jobs across the state. Establishing community gardens in every town and city. Every Iowan should have a place to legally stick seeds in the ground. Renters don't have anywhere they can legally grow often. And then we would also install solar panels on houses and on rental properties in order to reduce the energy bills for Iowans. Then there's healthcare, there's housing, there's a slew of other positions, simplifying the justice system to make it more accessible to Iowans.
With about a year until the 2026 primary, Wilson says she has work to do to secure support.
In order to get on the ballot, you have to have 3,500 signatures, 100 at least in 19 different counties. Where are you at in that process, and how do you plan to get there?
I think that we're going to be able to collect those signatures, and I will personally travel around and gather them myself if I need to, and I'm hoping that the grassroots team in various counties that have contacted me can help me gather those signatures, and maybe people watching this.
And she says as a political outsider, she has a fresh vision to take the state forward.
What are you going to vote for? Iowans have a choice right now to either vote for the same old business as usual we've seen in politics, or we can see something that we've never seen before and we can make history or herstory and change the future for coming generations.
When we return, why J.D. Scholten says he's ready to play ball in 2026 to unseat incumbent Senator Joni Ernst. Last week, Republican Senator Joni Ernst hinted at a 2026 re-election bid, hiring Brian Kraber as her campaign manager. Now, this comes on the heels of a controversial quip she made during a town hall, followed by more comments the next day on social media.
They are not eligible, so they will be coming off. So people are not, well, we all are going to die. So, for heaven's sakes, delivering.
Now, Ernst there was responding to someone at her town hall who was concerned about nearly $700 billion in Medicaid cuts, which are in President Donald Trump's budget bill. Now, after some backlash, Ernst posted a video to Instagram the next day addressing the comments she made.
I apologize. And I'm really, really glad that I did not have to bring up the subject of the tooth fairy as well.
Now, Democrat Nathan Sage is running for Ernst's seat, and State Representative Democrat J.D. Scholten also launched a campaign for the seat. The remarks that Ernst made at the town hall and her follow-up apology prompted him to run.
So tell me a little bit about why you're running for Senate, and then also the timing of this decision for you.
Yeah, so I've been thinking about this for a while. I think the thing when I first started thinking about it was when the tariffs hit. I got into politics because my grandma said, you got to take care of the family farm. And that still hits home today because she said that on her deathbed and just resonated. And then Friday, when Joni Ernst had her town hall and it came out with the comments about the cuts to Medicaid, and she said, well, we're all going to die. That hit home because I was actually on my way to a funeral when I saw it on social media, like most people saw it. That was the kind of the thing that took me over the edge, and I was like, I got to do this. And then when she doubled down, and I felt it was a very disrespectful and sarcastic apology. That's when I was like, oh, I'm in.
It looks like there, maybe a Democratic primary shaping up for this seat. So why are you the best Democrat in this race, to take on this U.S. Senate seat in 2026?
So all the people who have announced and who are thinking about running, I'm the only one who has federal experience. I took a race that Trump won by 27 in 2018, and we nearly pulled it off and lost by 3. So moved the needle 24 points. I've overperformed or outperformed the top of the ticket in every single race I've ran. And this last year, I won in a district that Trump won. And so when it comes to electability, I've had years of experience and a track record of pulling people into my coalition who are not just Democrats. And I think that's what we're going to have if we're going to win this seat. And so what we were able to do in my congressional campaigns with really getting the Winnebago RV and just going nonstop, that's the plan on doing it again this time.
What did you learn from those campaigns? Obviously, you came so close in 2018, but you had a much wider loss in 2020. What did you learn from that you'll change or you'll take with you into this campaign?
It's when you get out there to the people and you prove that you're trustworthy, you're going to earn votes all over the political spectrum. And that's been our motto. My campaigns have been, I think, a little bit unconventional. But at the end of the day, it relates to Iowans. I haven't dreamt about politics as a kid. I just wanted to go out and play baseball for the most part. And this summer, I get to do a little bit of both, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you still play baseball if you get to DC? What happens there?
This will be my last summer of playing baseball. And we have over a year until the primary. And so it's just going to be one of those things. And I got eligible to play for the Sioux City Explorers last night. And so I'm excited to both campaign and play some ball. And all of my campaigns have been outside the box. Now it's just outside the batter's box.
Welcome back. Iowa is cutting the unemployment insurance payments that businesses are required to pay by half. Governor Kim Reynolds signed a new law last week making that change. Reynolds says our state's nearly $2 billion unemployment trust fund is full. The new law lowers the amount of money businesses have to contribute to the state's unemployment compensation trust fund, and that is used to pay unemployment benefits to eligible Iowans. Thanks for joining us this morning. Have a great day.